sectors coming in from Tom Stevens. He's currently in 11th position. Will there be a late jump up from him maybe? There's quite a few positions to get there. Within even 1/10 he could get into the top 8 maybe by the end of this. We'll see as Stevens comes towards the line in a second. Scott Mitchell-Marm as well, who's purple in the second sector. Great improvement from Stevens, up to 3rd position, so just a quarter of a second off of Matt Richards. For Mitchell-Marm, it's still 11th position. Cedar Vaya and Fraser Hart, the last drivers who are going to be coming over the line in second. Fraser Hart doesn't improve. We'll see whether Cedar Vaya does in a second as well. 7th place currently, the highest point scorer with no podiums to his name. And at the moment, no improvement. So it's Matt Richards who takes pole once again, and that's a classic Matt Richards performance, really. If I remember correctly from 2 weeks ago, he did something very similar at Croft, where he wasn't leading for most of the session and then jumped right up at the end there.
He did that exact thing. Yeah, right. Last lap he put in, I'm pretty sure he snatched pole away, if my memory's on point as well, Ewan. So yeah, he seems to enjoy doing that. I think maybe he's toying with his rivals. I don't know, but it's working for him. You know, he's able to soak up that pressure and put a lap in when he needs to. And so yeah, really impressive stuff from him once again, and he's got his teammate behind him this time as well to be that rear gunner. That's always nice to have, particularly in this form of racing, as it can get a little bit scrappy sometimes.
Yeah, I'd be very impressed if he's intentionally waiting late, but anyway, it's pretty impressive the way it is at the moment. Powermax Racing will lock out the front row, 1 and 2, just less than 0.2 of a second apart. Jordan Richardson, the second of the drivers. Tom Stevens and Fraser Hart will then be on row 2, ahead of Chris Grevitt and Alan Smith, and this is where the field's very close, actually, incrementally. Cedar Vaya's 7th, ahead of Luke Mitchell, Callum Wilson and Alessandro Capper, who's not in the top 10 in the points, but he is in the top 10 in this qualifying session. 10th place indeed. Scott Mitchell-Marm just behind, ahead of Jordan Hyde, with Archie Jardine, the last driver, within a second of pole. Carl Benton and Simon Tribeck then round out the top 15 with Darren Wright, Colin Messina, Jordan Osborne, Alan Axon and Stuart Rolfe, rounding out the top 20. Dave Brewster was 20. Is that 20th twice? I don't know. Dave Brewster next to Jarosław Fides and Olivia Krajzanowskaja. And then that is the end of the qualifiers. Papi Williams and Fabian Michelon were banned from qualifying. Alexander Sarema was not, I don't believe, but didn't qualify nevertheless. Will be starting towards the back of the field. So 25 drivers it will be. And we'll be underway after a few minutes of warm-up here for the moment. But yeah, perhaps no surprise that Matt Richards is on pole again here. But the thing is, I think he hasn't quite been able to convert in the races. And, you know, race 3 on both nights so far has been a bit of a problem for him as far as finishing results are concerned. So it will be very interesting to see if he can put that right tonight, and that will give him some really strong drop weeks, because as it is, a second place run at Donington Park in race 2 is being dropped from his score currently after a couple of rounds.
I mean, the only thing separating him and Fraser Hart at the moment in second, at 1 point, is literally a fastest lap that Matt Richards has picked up during one of the races. So that is all that is separating himself and Fraser currently. From qualifying though to the race now, Ewan, of course they will have their ballast put in the car from the previous results of last time out. So I can tell you now, Fraser Hart will have 50 kilograms extra, Richardson is going to have 40, Axon 30, Richards will have 20, and Weyer is going to have 10 extra kilograms added to their cars. So Richardson and Richards right at the front, the sharp end of things, they're going to have a little bit of extra weight to deal with around here. And of course Fraser Hart, who's a little bit further back, but really still at the sharp end, he's in 4th. So keep an eye on those guys, because they may drop a little bit further down the order here in race number 1, should they not be able to manage and maintain the pace with the extra weight on board.
Yeah, that's the key thing, isn't it? And I think one of the good things as well about this series, the way we apply ballast, is that it's not a factor in qualifying, but it is in the race, which allows it to be a little bit of a mixed up grid without, you know, doing anything very unusual in qualifying. You can just mix up the grid a little bit by putting the ballast on in time for race number 1, and then the ballast race 2, and the reverse grid race 3, where those who are up the front, to be fair to Matt Richards, those who are up the front in the first 2 races do find it a bit more difficult because of the reverse grid and the weight that they're likely to have on board. But either way, that will be something he's wishing to fix here tonight, and he could really start to give himself a championship lead that can last if indeed this this night goes as he plans, as the drivers pull onto the front straight now. I think based on the weights you've just read out there, he's got to win this race tonight. And you know, he's won race 1 on both nights so far. This is perhaps the most glaring opportunity that he's actually had this season, Matt Richards, to win the opening race of the day.
Yeah, he needs to put his sort of stamp of authority, I think, at this point. If he doesn't, then it really still has the door wide open for the other guys around him that are also racing very well indeed. Of course, he has looked the most consistent out of all the drivers so far, so he's got that in his corner, but it doesn't mean to say he's completely invincible, because we've seen that he's not invincible. We saw Tom Stevens with a fantastic overtake at Croft last time, race number 2. Callum Cripps, unfortunately no longer here, he did the same thing in race number 1 on Matt Richards, so he's not the invincible man maybe people might think of him, but he is certainly up there and does seem very formidable in his own right. So fair play to him in that regard. But yeah, he needs to do it here, Ewan. Otherwise, it's going to be a little bit of a longer evening for him.
I think so, certainly. It's very, very early on in this season, though. Let's not forget, only 2 rounds of the Pro Touring Esports Championship complete. 6 rounds to go in the new year, by the way. This is the last one before Christmas. We'll be back on the 11th of January with the Silverstone National Circuit, the famous PTCC Silverstone layout, as it were, at least from recent years. One of my favourite layouts of Silverstone, actually, other than the main one, the normal one. It's pretty good for a short layout, pretty good for these cars as well. Not too many courses to worry about, to be honest, but that does have its own advantages as well, to be fair. So Matt Richards will lead these guys into a very different kind of racetrack here. Lots of straights at the Silverstone National Circuit, barely any around here as they curve into this final chicane before coming onto the front straight, and Richards will assume his first place starting position, and the rest will follow him in behind, as we've been mentioning. It's a very, very good chance for him to win here and extend a bit of a championship lead. In fact, whoever finishes ahead of the other, as far as Matt Richards and Fraser Hart go, are going to be the championship leaders by the end of race 1. Not that particularly matters. It's early in the season, and it is early in tonight as the drivers pull onto the grid. Let's see what happens in race 1 here from Thruxton. The back drivers queue up sort of round the final corner, such as the short nature of this front straight. We're ready to go here at Thruxton. 22 minutes on the clock and we're underway already, and Richards is going to have to hold on from Richardson and Tom Stevens, who's had a pretty good start here, already jamming himself down the inside of Jordan Richardson, and door banging as well on the way through turn 1 and 2. Now down on the brakes in towards the chicane, and Richardson round the outside will get the inside at the second part, but it's only going to allow the leader to get away. Oh, a bobble over the curves that we've seen be deadly already tonight. Stevens gets through though into second position in the only position change in the top 5, at least for now. Here comes Fraser Hart as well.
Yeah, fantastic start there from Tom Stevens. Really got the car away nicely through the early launch. And there is a car off way in the background. That's Alan Smith dropping down the order. Oh, what a shame. It's going to be a long way back to the tarmac for him. And it is so slippery once you touch that grass as well. Fraser Hart was able to move up, but I don't think able to take that 3rd place in the end. So he stays 4th where he started, as we've got another yellow flag as they now make their way round Church Corner and along this long sweeping left-hand turn. It's really 2 in 1, Brooklands and Woodham Hill.
Over the top of the hill and into the club chicane, wobbling over these curves pretty viciously. It's the end of lap number 1, and I'll say just the 1 position change inside the top 5. Tom Stevens getting through on Jordan Richardson. Further down the field, there's a lot more going on. Scott Mitchell-Marmers trying to make up his first position of the day, trying to get back past Archie Jardine actually, who has gotten into the top 10 pretty nicely off the start of this race. Late breakers into the chicane. Mitchell Marm gets through into 10th position, back into the top 10 really for the first time here tonight. It's all very close all the way down the field here, and other than Alan Smith, I think we've had a pretty clean start as far as this is concerned. Fabien Michelon didn't start on the racetrack, by the way, which is why he's even further off the back of the pack after starting from pit lane. Only Alan Smith seemingly finding the grass on lap 1.
Oh, that was a mighty impressive save there from Simon Trebek, getting it all sorts of sideways through the long right-hander of Goodwood, and then now down towards Church once again. This corner here, I can tell you, really does require some commitment, and look at them all going off the circuit as well. Just a little bit, but it's enough to slow them down, because there goes Simon Trebek round the outside of the corner, but they're still going to be fighting on their way into the final part of Club and through this chicane as well. Neat and tidy from a lot of the drivers, pretty much all of them through that final chicane. I would imagine as we start getting to the the final few minutes, and maybe they'll start taking a few more risks with it, because it is quite brutally punishing that corner in terms of track limits, but it does save you a lot of time if you can cut it.
Yeah, and again we've seen the curves as far as rolling over is concerned is played a little bit of a role there. Maybe it's not going to be quite as possible through that final chicane as what it is clearly through the first one in the early part of the lap, but nevertheless something worth bearing in mind as well at the same time, given we've already seen it a couple of times in this server tonight. This is a little bit further up the field here as the battle for second continues. Jordan Richardson trying to get past Tom Stevens here, and putting a lot of pressure on, but then again things were the other way around as well. I mean, Stevens was putting a lot of pressure on Richardson initially off the race as well, so this has the look of two pretty evenly matched drivers in fighting for second place.
Certainly does. The thing I will add, Ewan, at the moment, I mean, of course, a lot of them, they're kind of having to sort of follow the leader in front of them, which I would somewhat expect a little bit, although this could be lining up to be a move as they now come towards turn number 1 again. But this is going to be a big strategy element in this one tonight, simply on the basis of, one, the tyre wear around here is rather high. They get up to high temperatures very quickly indeed with the nature of the high-speed corners, but also the battery. It's something we're going to mention again, because here tonight it's even more of a factor. There's not many braking zones. There's no real heavy braking zones, so recharging it is quite difficult, and you're not going to have as much of it as you normally would.
No, it's a difficult one in that respect. This circuit, maybe more so than any other place that we go to on the calendar. We'll find out across the weeks as we scan up and down the field at the moment. As Stevens versus Richardson again, just a little bit further apart than what they were before, and actually Stevens brings the lead gap down below a second for the first time in a while. Alan Wilson also getting close in with Grevitt as well, but again, no chance on the way towards the final chicane here as well. Maybe more risks are going to be taken a little bit later, because it has been a calm start to tonight's racing in the first race.
Oh, who is that? Is that Trebek? It is Trebek. Trebek into the pit lane there. I wonder if he's our first drive-through then of the evening, because he didn't seem to have any problems with the car, and I didn't see him have any big moments apart from him sliding it a little bit sideways through Goodwood. But yeah, through the pits he goes. So first casualty, shall we say, of the night. And I would imagine there might be a few more to come as we go later on into the other races, but also into this race as well. But interestingly, Ewan, the driver's sort of fanning out a little bit here, so not as close to action as maybe previous weeks at Croft, although I say that, we jump on board here with Dave Brewster, and he's right up under the bumper of another car.
All it takes is someone to start to disrupt this, and Brewster is trying to do that, although it is a long way down the field. Up to 18th. A few positions gained so far in the day for Brewster. Let's get past Rolfe for 16th position at the moment. Stuart Rolfe. The run towards the chicane, which I'm surprised hasn't been more of a fixture of overtakes so far. Might well be now. No, not quite. A look at the inside, but it's seemingly a little bit on the easy side to defend. Grevitt didn't have to do too much there to completely put... sorry, not Grevitt. Stuart Rolfe had to... didn't have to do a lot of defending there at all to put Brewster off diving down the inside into the final chicane there.
It didn't seem, well, it didn't even seem too aggressive on the attack, so maybe, again, just sort of Brewster biding his time a little bit, because they do seem to be going side by side now on the timing tower, at least. But we're going to focus on this battle here. This is a five-way fight, because that was between Brewster and Rolf, and now it's sort of Constantine a bit further back into right, Saraima as well, and they are now going side by side as we speak. I believe they're teammates as well, looking at the coloured livery on their cars. So I can't imagine they will be pushing each other off the road anytime soon, probably fairly equal and clean on that front. As we're going to jump a little bit further forward once again and just try to work out whereabouts we are. I'm still learning all the car liveries, by the way, if you haven't guessed it. Here we go, Callum Wilson then, 6th position, chasing down Chris Grivette.
Top 6 pretty close all in all. No gap more than a second, in fact, in the top 6, as Stevens has done the job of trying to bring Matt Richards back into that, although, as I say, that the gap goes to over a second again as well. But even at this distance, I mean, Callum Wilson's closer to Grevett than anybody else is in the front group, close to anybody else. And even he is just nowhere near making a move into the first chicane here. And so far, the slipstream that you so often see through Thruxton hasn't really materialised. That's a better run, though, out of the chicanes. Is he going to be able to get alongside in time? It doesn't look like it, in time for Noble. And then into Goodwood, there's one line through here, really, although Grevett goes a little bit wider on the entry there. And Wilson will have to continue pushing hard to find an opening here. But for a track that I think normally has quite a lot of slipstream available to it, there seemingly hasn't been too much available so far in this race for whatever reason.
If I remember correctly, Ewan, and it is the R Factor 2 sim, I don't think it's how can we word this, programmed very well for sort of a slipstream style of things. So you don't actually get as much of a close-up as you would get in the real world, shall we say. And so sometimes it can be a bit difficult to sort of think about it in that aspect, because you're in normal logic in the real world, yeah, you're punching a massive hole in the air in front of you. The car behind is going to benefit with less drag. R Factor 2, I think, is a little bit weaker on that side of things, but I mean, it's not going to bother Wilson here, because he's right up and under Grivette, so this still could be a chance here to make a move, albeit going to be very tricky through this part of the circuit. Your best bet now is to sort of make sure you stick right up under the bumper and wait for the final corner of Club.
Yeah, and that is absolutely true, obviously, about the draft here. Even so, you'd expect somebody to be able to have a go at some point, but so far that's not really been happening towards the front of the field. And you have to look a little bit further down to see some of those fights. The group from Osborne on backwards in 16th place is pretty close. Pretty closer than anyone inside the top 6, although Wilson does seem to keep getting close and lurking around. Here's the Osborne battle. Brewster there with a better line, and there's the mistake. So maybe that's what they're going to be waiting for all day, as the mistakes pile in. Here comes Brewster trying to punish him for that. Inside into the final chicane, and that's pretty easy as long as he didn't outbrake himself, and he didn't. Brewster moves up into 16th position in front of Osborne, and that is maybe the template for everybody else, because there was definitely a mistake there from Osborne before Brewster was able to get alongside.
Was you know, it's down to the grass. It's pretty much ice. As soon as you dip a small tyre onto there, you immediately lose tons of traction, and of course the momentum to go with it. So it's then really sort of not inevitable that your opponent behind gets past, but it's a high likelihood that it could happen. But this is not Luke Mitchell, Callum Wilson, who we're riding on board with once again, still hasn't found a way past Chris Grivette in front of him. Fraser Hart also right there. I feel like they've closed up a little bit at the front here now, because Stevens is only 0.8 behind Richards and Richardson is 0.6 behind him. This is another second back to Hart, Grivette and Wilson, but there's not a lot separating these guys either. There you go. You can see all 6 in shot as they come through the final corner now.
Yeah, it's closer, but I'm just, you know, it's still miles too far away, really. Even 8 tenths of a second, 5 tenths of a second, miles too far away based on what we've seen so far. Callum Wilson's 2 tenths, 3 tenths behind, and you can see how difficult he's finding this at the moment. He's not even within a car length, and And therefore, it's very, very difficult to justify firing down the inside. Admittedly, though, up until this point, we've been in the first half of the race. Now we cross over into the second. Maybe we're going to see more aggression, but just being within a second is not enough. You've got to be a lot closer than that and indeed waiting for a mistake, maybe, if you are further away, before you can really think about making any move.
I think the nice thing a little bit though is with some of these corners, I will say, is drivers are using slightly different lines. You can see there, it's not a massive difference, but Wilson going a little bit wider than Gravett, and of course everyone's finding the grip and the pace. So it doesn't seem like it's impossible to do it. It just seems that the pace difference between these guys is so minimal that in order to have that little bit of an advantage on your rival going into a corner or indeed out of a corner, you really need to be on something else to get a move even attempted. That just shows you the caliber of these drivers really, and how they are all on the absolute edge of what is possible in these machines. And it really is just sort of it's sort of praise really at the end of the day, isn't it, Ewan? Because they are all fantastic in their own right.
And they certainly are. Oh, side by side further back again. And this is between Osborne and Stuart Rolfe, who's trying to get past, and that... Oh, dear. Oh, no! Rolfe is slowing down on the exit here, so is Osborne. Well, and Stuart Rolfe pulling off to the side of the road by the looks of things in the background. All sorts going on there through the final chicane, and I can't really decipher it for the moment. It looked maybe like Rolfe had... I don't know whether it was the dust from the grass or whether he actually had smoke coming out the back of that car. Or why indeed Osborne was slowing down as well, but that was unusual in the battle for 17th place. It's really taken a hammer to that group as well.
Yeah, it looked like smoke as he was coming through club corner. Maybe he's just a bit too eager on the downshifts, I don't know, but it certainly looked like it was an engine problem there, and we're being told now he's had to DNF, so he's not going to finish this race, so he has retired that car. It just looked like smoke. I mean, of course, that's why he had no power on the exit of Club Corner that we're currently riding through now. And so, yeah, couldn't do anything about it. But yeah, like you say, Ewan, it's broken that group up a little bit. So, real shame, because it was some fantastic battling going on. But hopefully, we can maybe see a move here from Wilson. I say that, we're going to jump back here.
Yeah, further back in the pack again to the group with Osborne. It's not completely broken apart, but you can see that Alan Smith is next in line. Down a lot of places after the issues earlier on, but won't have any weight on for the second race, and we'll hope to get into at least the top 12, hopefully advanced into the top 12 for the third race draw, which will take place just towards the end of the second race, and let everybody know how many cars are going to be reversed for the final race of the day, the reverse grid race, which has provided us with some shocks and some frills and spills so far this season. These three continue on at very close proximity, as they do for third place, by the way, fourth place rather. Fraser Hart only just hanging on in front of Gravett and Wilson, I think, and he's got to be grateful, I think, that Callum Wilson's there putting so much pressure on Gravett, who gives him so much room, an acre of room, and Callum Wilson goes into the top 5.
There's the pressure. It finally got to Gravett. He made the mistake, went deep, and that had allowed Wilson to just breeze on through with ease, and he'll say thank you very much indeed. Interesting though, he's now got Fraser Hart in front of him. If we all remember back to the start of this race, Hart is carrying the extra 50 kilograms on board, and with the pace of Wilson, of course, he struggled there with Gravett not having any weight added to his car, so maybe he could have a little bit of a better time with Fraser in front of him now. But I mean, it did seem incredibly difficult to pass. I don't know if he's got it in him in these closing 6 minutes.
Yeah, not sure. Time's running out in this race very quickly. In the first race of the day, first race of 3 from Thruxton, will be pretty shortly after this one, be on for race 2 again as well, and hopefully we'll be able to chat to a couple of the top drivers as well from the first race of the day, ending in just 6 minutes time here tonight. These three pretty close to one another again, further down back in the pack, and in towards the final chicane again. A case of follow the leader. So that's been the story of this first race, I think. A lot of following on through these opening laps, and maybe even in the final 5 minutes we'll see something sparked off here. But for the moment, not really up and down the field.
No, they're taking it pretty calm and collected at the moment, aren't they? Which I think for race number one, you're still finding your bearings a little bit, which I can fully respect the drivers for sort of taking this first race at least a little bit sort of calm and collected, shall we say. Because, you know, getting into race 2 and then, of course, race 3, reverse grid added on to that, you know, you're going to want to keep and make sure you are at the front. And, of course, you know, you're building on from that race after race. So I can completely understand it, why they may have maybe taken this a little bit more cautiously, but they are still finding themselves in the limits of those cars. And here comes Callum Wilson on Fraser Hart, and that's just how close the gap is now.
Yeah, Wilson's been the punchiest of the drivers so far in this race, and is maybe going to get past Fraser Hart into the chicane. This is how it got past Grevitt, who gave him a load of room. You can imagine and indeed see now that Fraser Hart is not going to give Callum Wilson quite as much room as he was given by Grevitt, who gave him too much room. He drove himself off the road, but Fraser Hart is going to fight this one a lot harder because he is second place in the championship, don't forget, and only 1 point off of Matt Richards, who's looking difficult to deny as far as an extension of this championship lead at the end of this race.
So interestingly with Grevitt, he's dropped off the back of this battle between Hart and Wilson, but you know, Weyer and Mitchell, they're right there as well. You can just see them at the top of the camera shot. So I mean, if Grevitt keeps dropping back and they keep sort of lurching forward, you could even see a battle there potentially unfold. But I mean, we're going to jump to the leaders, of course, with Matt Richards getting it almost sideways through Goodwood, and that's going to probably allow Tom Stevens a little bit of momentum as they get on the exit. And the gap now, look at that, 3 tenths between them. Is this a chance for a different leader of this race?
He went a bit wide there as well, did Matt Richards. In the grass he goes. How much is that going to slow him down here? And is the pressure getting to him? Look at the slipstream and the speed for Stevens as he heads to the inside. Is he going to be brave enough on the inside? I don't think so. Matt Richards goes quite deep again though. And Stevens is going to have a better run on the exit here if he wants it. Richardson's going to close in very quickly. Stevens has got to get alongside before turn 1 really, and he can't. And now it's a case of following again through turn 1. Just over 3 minutes to go in this race. 3 laps to go indeed as well as they dive in towards the chicane. That was a golden opportunity, I think, for Tom Stevens, and I'm not sure he's going to get a better one.
No, I felt like he needed to do more with that. It really was his best chance, and it's going to be tricky to see if another one is going to show itself here. But I mean, rounding the top part of the circuit through Noble, the left-hander now, turn number 5. The gap hasn't changed, of course. He's still right there. There is a chance, but he's banking on potentially Richards making another small mistake. You cannot bank on Richards making a mistake. You need to be putting in those opportunities yourself, making them for yourself. Now down to Church. They're still neck and neck as this is going to be Grevitt on Hart. I stand corrected with him dropping back because through he goes and takes that 5th position back.
Well, it's Fraser Hart who's dropping back, and he's got to be very careful now because Cedar is not that far behind, and neither is Luke Mitchell in 7th and 8th position. So this is bad news for the driver who starts today just 1 point off of the championship lead, Fraser Hart, as they get 2 laps to go. It will be a relief to some, like Matt Richards and maybe Fraser Hart as well, but not a relief to these 2 who are chasing behind. I think we'd seen Stevens' best opportunity, and as he said, he's now effectively banking on a mistake from Richards, which is, well, you get long odds for that, that's for sure.
Oh, yeah, definitely. If you're a betting person, it's not something you'd probably go for, unless you're trying to, you know, put your pound and turn it into, I don't know, 100,000 or something crazy like that. But yeah, only a few laps now. Chance, I think, has gone for Stevens, but I mean, he's still going to be in a real good spot there for 2nd place, picking up some good points. And Richards, should they finish like this, has done what he set out to do and needed to do here in race number 1, so he'll be happy with that result. I'm surprised Richardson didn't try to have a little look at the inside of Stevens, because of course it all concertinaed, it closed right in the gaps, but unfortunately no door opened for him on that occasion. This is now Hart and Weyer a bit further back, teammates of course, all driving for the same team, so I can't imagine there'd be too much argy-bargy should a move be made.
No, yeah, you wouldn't have thought so, as the 1 minute mark is about to be crossed. We're on to the final lap of this race. There it is. Matt Richards has controlled it the whole way through, but is he opening the door for Tom Stevens at the very end here? Just about a minute to go in this race, and Stevens will be pushing everything here, but Richards at the moment holding things in hand, and it's just shown that, you know, he's coming under fire a little bit towards the end of this first race.
mean, it could be down to a bit of that strategy that I mentioned at the start. Of course, that they've got to look at their tyres. They should be able to get these softs. I'd imagine they're all on softs at this point because it is the fastest and there is no mandatory tyre like real life. And you can get them to the end. I've been told by the drivers earlier, so they should be getting it there. But the battery's still a factor. It could all be coming together. But these two at front, or should I say 3 out front, they seem to be a little bit of a cut above the rest.
They definitely are. 0.3 of a second. It's a better line from Stevens again, but Richards doesn't go wide, and even when he did, Stevens didn't have a chance into that final chicane, so it should all be okay here, barring a ludicrous dive bomb. Richards will be feeling the pressure all the way to the very end, but in race 1 here at Thruxton, in the Pro Touring Esports Championship, Matt Richards is going to win again. It's the third round, where he's won the first race of the day. After Donington and Croft success, he's now got success in the first race at Thruxton as well. And he's never repeated that victory with another one after it, but he's gotten off the evening off to a perfect start once again, as he has done on those 2 previous occasions.
Yeah, brilliant stuff there from Richards. He needed that, I think, as well, just to really sort of make a mark, I guess, because like you say, from pole, he's not been the luckiest fella out there, but brilliant start to finish. He handled the pressure when it came a knock-in. Stevens unlucky, but I feel like he could have done a little bit more to try and force it. But at the end of the day, second place, still a good chunk of points as the rest of the field now start crossing the line to finish off race number 1. It was a bit of a calmer race, shall we say, Ewan. I think that could be the calm before the storm, though, because I'd imagine in the next 2, things should begin to ramp up a little bit.
Well, I mean, let's see. Didn't seem that the ballast was making a load of difference for everybody last time out. And that's all that's changing for this second race. The ballast applied to those who did well effectively and finished up towards the front in race number 1 tonight here from Thruxton. Let's have a look at the race results from the opening one of the day, and it is Matt Richards who wins ahead of Tom Stevens and John Ritson in that front group. Callum Wilson got up to 4th place, making the most overtakes at the front anyway, to credit Chris Grevitt, and Fraser Hart dropping outside the top 5 in the end, and therefore dropping back in the championship as well. Cito Vaya still 7th and still off the podium as well, so still trophy leader. Luke Mitchell, Alessandro Caput and Scott Mitchell-Marm round out the top 10. Carl Benson was 11th ahead of Jordan Hyde with Archie Jardine. 13th with Colin Messina and Alan Axon running at the top 15. Dave Brewster next to Alan Smith, who spun spectacularly on lap number 1, but that was all that happened on lap number 1. Darren Wright, Alexander Sarema and Simon Trebek, who had to pit in that race, if I remember correctly, finishes 20th. Jaroslav Peters 21st in front of Matthew Williams, Jordan Osborne, Olivier Krasanovska and Fabian Michelon, rounding off those who finished the race. Nearly got lapped there, Michelon, but he did stay on the lead lap. And Stuart Rolfe is a DNF, maybe through an engine failure, although it was hard to tell, to be honest, at the time. That's certainly what it seemed to be at that stage. Well, as you say, maybe it will be a bit of a calm before the storm. Well, maybe that's a preview of what's to come. A race a round in which track position is very, very important. And for those who just did well in that race, a race in which track position is important is going to be very useful to them as well.
Yeah, it certainly will be. So it's going to be interesting. Of course, the order's been moved around a little bit now from the qualifying to start us off with. But it should really sort of reflect the sort of pace of each driver. Of course, they are racing one another, but normally those that are quicker, they do tend to rise to the top. So race number 2 might be fairly similar to race number 1, but of course that front 5 are the ones now with the ballast. It's not a bit more of a random spread. So of course the Richard's going to pick up the 50, and then as you go further on down, 40, 30, 20, 10 if you haven't worked it out already. So yeah, it's going to be interesting to see if Richards can keep that up once again. It's not as heavy a braking zone as the previous rounds we've gone to, so he would hoped to keep that going into turn number 1.
And if he does, then I think he's got a very, very good chance in race number 2 as well. As I mentioned, hasn't backed it up, Matt Richards, yet with a victory in race 2. He's finished second place on both occasions at Donington Park and Croft. And by the way, the first of those is counting as one of his 3 bad results here this season. Well, that's going to be something interesting to note here. It's not a round that is taken on as a drop score here in this series. It's 3 individual races, which means that they could be scattered through the season. And for those who are here the whole time, they will be. And that is maybe going to be a non-event by the end of the season. But it's just worth noting how different the overall points are compared to the drop round points, because Fraser Hart is a bit closer when you add the drop rounds compared to when you don't, although having said that, that gap may well have grown with that previous race there.
I would imagine it did. I think Hart finished, where was he, about 6th or yeah, 6th I think he was in the end there, so that's going to be a few more points sort of a bit further down. And of course, when you're looking at the standings from the very beginning, you've already lost half the calendar in a sense, because they've taken 3 rounds out of 6 and they've dropped the scores off them. So you really are looking at the moment, your best is your best and your worst is your worst, in that it's 50-50. As the round opens up, as you get further and deeper into the seasons, those averages start to play more of a factor. You know, are you finishing in the top 5 more than you are in the bottom 5, and sort of looking at it in that sort of respect. So at the moment, yeah, the gap is very, very close. If Matt Richards keeps this up, it's definitely going to be opening and getting wider to the guy in 2nd place. At the moment, still Fraser Hart, but never know. Callum Wilson, he's not far back, and he had a brilliant race there in round number 1.
And to be fair, that previous race will now be a drop week for Fraser Hart as well. But there you go. That's also it worked out by the end of the day, and we're far from a situation in which nobody can overhaul those two at the front of the field. There's plenty of others. Although, having said that, Callum Wilson was a little bit far back. Is Callum Cripps even here today? I don't see Callum Cripps anywhere around at the moment, so it may not be here for this race. Oh yeah, of course, it's not in the series anymore. That's why. I did know that. I forgot it. So there you go. But yeah, that does very much point towards maybe 2-horse race being beginning. But Tom Stevens missed out on the first 3 rounds, in the first 3 races, and so another 2nd place after winning at Croft as well is maybe showing him to be one of the contenders as well. Although whenever he gets a 0, as he did in race 3 at Croft, it really, really hurts him, and that's going to be the perennial problem for those who are not here every round.
I think he could be a bit of a dark horse though, because I mean, of course, Croft last time out, he finished 2nd, then he won. Of course, the 17 you look at and go, yeah, all right, but I think he did have a collision in the opening laps of race number 3, so of course no points for him scored there. But I mean, he's already 8th position. He's missed the first round entirely, so that's his 3 drop scores right there. If he's there every single round from here on and scoring like that week in, week out, he could be a bit of a dark horse to sort of factor into this as you get deeper into the season. So Tom Stevens quite exciting to look at when you think about it, but equally it is still so early on. And what do we know really at this point? We're sort of theorizing, spouting, you could say, rubbish, but until we get deeper into the season, maybe some of these predictions will come to fruition, maybe they won't.
And we don't get to speak to the drivers between these races by the sounds of things. I mean, we have asked for them, but nobody's turned up this time around. So anyway, you can understand a little bit that they want to stay focused and whatever, but it would be nice to hear from them. Either way, we're going to have to wait for a bit later to do that. So the ballast has been applied in the manner that you said earlier on, and gives Matt Richards maybe a little bit of a handicap. However, it also gives those around him, not a dissimilar weight to what he's got. Only when you start getting sort of to 4th, 5th, 6th, and back, do you start, I think, to really see a difference in terms of the weight. Because you've got to remember, yes, Richards has got 50 kilos on board, but the guys who are around him have nearly got the same, and that does offset it a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if you think about it in this sort of sense, 50 kilograms is a light person, but you could argue that you've got someone sat in your passenger side seat that is sort of maybe a little bit on the skinnier side of things. And imagine that as the extra ballast in your car kind of thing. Of course, it's not a person, it is, little, probably blocks of lead that they would chuck in. But with that extra weight, of course, it puts extra stress on the tyres. It puts extra stress on the battery getting up to speed. You're adding all of these things into the mix that after lap after lap after lap, once you get to 18, those little things start to add up and the increments become larger and larger. So it's something that will still play a factor, whether it shows or not. that remains to be seen, because of course we've seen what Matt Richards can do with 20 grams on board. He's got an extra 30 now, but clearly he does seem to be quite formidable, maintaining the pace even with the added weight.
Yeah, that weight equivalent to carrying around Darragh Thacker, I would say.
Absolutely.
But anyway, you wouldn't want that. You'd rather the lead, I would say. So that's what will be in where the passenger seat normally is, and he'll pull round to the front straight again to assume the pole position for this race once again. We'll see whether I'm very interested to see whether Tom Stevens is going to be more aggressive this time round, and whether that is the reason why we didn't see a lead change between those top two during the first race, especially when it got proper close there towards the end. Richards set off quite quickly, but Stevens brought it back quite nicely as well. And I just wonder whether that is going to change with a bit more aggression from Stevens, or whether it will be the Matt Richards show again as the final drivers pull onto the grid. Indeed, around the bend as they are. No real straights around this circuit, as we know. And 22 minutes will be put on the clock again. Can Matt Richards do it again? Can he win 2 races in one night for the first time this season? As we get race 2 from Thruxton underway. Here we go. But in the ballast race. Oh, and Richardson going nowhere there. Oh, sorry, that's not Richardson. That's Callum Wilson going nowhere. And he's already outside the top 5. Here comes Stevens. Is he going to be more aggressive this time? As he looks to the inside into the chicane. Now he's on the outside. But he's not got an overlap. Not a sufficient one anyway. And he stays in behind Matt Richards. Then Richardson, then Grevitt, who's got past Wilson, and only Wilson in the end, has done a very good job of recovering there to get back to 5th place again. Here comes Stevens. Oh, and wide, very wide there, just in the background. That's Luke Mitchell, who's dropping down the field just a little bit as a result of that. Tom Stevens, aggressive-ish, trying to get past Richards, but now he's under pressure from Richardson.
Yeah, he needs to be careful here. We'll also mention that Carlo Messina went into the wall at the third corner, I wonder if he's still moving or not. I'm not too sure, but he is going to be right down at the back, as this is still the battle going on then for the lead. Stevens still second from Richardson third. Richardson, he might have a little look there and probably want to help his teammate out, but I don't think the gap's going to be opened up all that much. And there is absolutely nothing separating these guys as they finish off lap number 1 now and start the second one.
Yeah, it's one long line over the start-finish line, but that's to be expected at the end of lap number 1. Not a single gap more than a second inside the top 20. And Richards is at the head of all of that with the ballast on. But the top 5, interestingly, are still the top 5. And that's the thing about the ballast race. Maybe the difference between 1st and 6th as far as car handling and maybe even car speed is concerned are very different. They're separated by all of the and surrounded by drivers who are on a similar weight to them, and that is an advantage to the race leader, that Richards is only having Stevens behind him, considering the similar weight that they're both suffering with.
I love Matt Richards through that corner. I don't know what he's doing through Goodwood, but he steps the rear out every single time by the looks of things. It really is majestic to watch, as we're going to get a replay here of the start once again. That looks to be Simon Trebek, but I think this is going to be seeing what happened to Carlo Messina then as they make their way towards turn number 2 of Campbell. You can just see there he's wide. Looks like he clipped the grass, I think, there. What has happened there? Is this yeah, he's definitely clipped the grass under the brakes and just sent the car spearing into the barrier.
Well, it looked to me like he saw those braking in front of him a bit earlier than he expected and sort of tried to avoid and put himself off the road in doing so, but not really sure. Hard to tell really what was the motivation behind that, as Wilson gets close to getting his place back from Grevitt again, but nope, nothing doing again. And much like the first race, Matt Richards is just pulling a few car lengths over the rest of the field as it stands, and we'll see whether they hold, because it didn't last time in the first race, and Stevens was able to put pressure on at the end of the race. Now is Stevens just sort of racing these races a little bit better, not getting too fast at the beginning, suffering for it later. Seems to be holding back early on and trying to overtake later, and well, so far that hasn't been successful, but the same pattern does seem to be beginning to form.
It's certainly emerging, you're right. It's interesting though, because Stevens, he's taking a different line than Richardson and indeed his teammate Richardson as well through the sort of back part of the circuit. So but it's clearly working for him as this looks like a move is very easily on there as they now make their way into club. I think this is a bit further back between Alan Smith and Jardine. There we go. Number 14th position, number 80. Through club and now over the start finish line and into turn one. Nice easy overtake there for Smith by the looks of things as well. But yeah, I think my point was Stevens and Richards was just taking different lines. It's interesting to see that they're both finding grip though.
Yeah, it is. It is different ways. 3 temps, 2 temps. It's not a million miles away, those top 2. Stevens earlier in the race this time, putting pressure onto Matt Richards here as they come around the long right-hander now. Richardson's right there, closer this time though, and that could give Stevens a problem. Just like that line, by the way, he's not defending or trying to get into the mirrors, I don't think. He's just trying to shorten the distance towards Church, which I think is not a bad idea. A little bit wider from Richards, and this is the closest we've seen it for a while. Here comes Tom Stevens. And he's finally allowed to the inside. First bit of side-by-side for the lead that we've seen here. 5 minutes into race 2. He's on the inside for the first bit. Richards holds it there. He's on the inside for the second bit. Watch out for Richardson. He's going to cut underneath them both. And here comes Grevitt as well. 3 wide over the start-finish line as Grevitt tries to take 3 in 1. He can't do it. Stevens is going to have the lead. Grevitt's going to be second. Richardson and Richards are side by side for third, and it's Jordan Richardson who keeps his third place. Matt Richards is going backwards here, and there's no sign of this stopping anytime soon. He's trying to fight back. Outside through the first part, inside of the second, and he's going to be just about in front of his teammate. And he's off into the grass. The championship leader in trouble here. Matt Richards loses positions to his 2 teammates, and here comes his championship rival. Fraser Hart goes round the outside, straight through as well. Here comes Kappa. It's not ending at the moment for Matt Richards, who's coming down the field. Time after time after time. Here comes Sino Fire as well, looking to his inside. Finally, Matt Richards stops this, and now he's going to fight back. Kappa inside of him into Church. He's sliding again. Matt Richards in big trouble here with Sino Fire coming alongside.
Can he stop the bleeding? That's the question. He needs to bandage that up quickly before it really does become a problem. Not that it already isn't, because it certainly is in his eyes. There he goes. It's all Constantine again as more door banging through the final corner of club. I think that's Carl Benton getting it all a little bit hairy with Luke Mitchell as well there. The battle for the top 10 and P10 in that as well. Jordan Hyde just waiting to pick up the pieces as I think Matt Richards has finally managed to stop the bleeding effect and seems to calm down, shall we say, and Tom Stevens now new race leader. I think we kind of lost all of that with Matt Richards just dropping it down the order.
Yeah, well, this is one of those circuits, and I wasn't expecting it to be like this tonight, I must admit, but you see it very often, I think, in GT3 racing sometimes. When one driver gets out of line, it just kicks off the carnage, and that's what we saw there. It wasn't carnage as far as crashes and whatever are concerned, thankfully, but it was just good racing all the way through. Matt Richards went from 1st to 7th and nearly 8th, 9th and worse in one lap there. Here comes Grevitt meantime. Now we've got the guys on less ballast with the guys on more, and so you can see the difference a little bit more clearly now. Here comes Grevitt on the outside line into the chicanes. And no, not quite this time, but this is the first, well, maybe not the first time tonight, because we saw it sometimes in race 1, but certainly in this race, where the guys who are lighter on their feet are on those who are heavier. Stevens on 40 kilograms, let's not forget, Grevitt on just 10.
Absolutely, it's starting to play to fruition at last. I think we've been waiting for 3 rounds to somewhat see this at the moment, because so far, Croft and Donington, I think the sort of leaders very much sort of able to hold their own, and finally we've got a situation where the guys are going toe-to-toe with those without any ballast in the car, and Chris Brevet, he almost got into the lead there into club last lap, but just unable to do the last finishing touches on that. This is a bit further back once again. Luke Mitchell now fighting David Brewster 13th, so Mitchell lost a few more positions there. Alan Smith through, Jordan Hyde through as well. I think he's also finally managed to settle down. As back up front here once again. That is Kappa and Richards, I believe. No, I'm getting that all wrong. Apologies. It's Richardson and Wilson, isn't it?
Yeah, at the front of the field. Richardson looking at the inside of Grevitt here. Wilson then next in line. And you've got Hart, Kappa, Richards and Via, who are all in this top 8. No gaps more than a second in the top 8 as things stand, which is good to see. Side by side meantime, Mitchell and Brewster as well, going in for 13th here. Outside for Luke Mitchell. That's going to be diminishing returns. Alan Smith, by the way, in front of these guys, another positional gaining race for him after going off in race 1. He's at least in position now to maybe gain some positions with a reverse grid, but he'll need a lot of luck. He'll need it to be 12, and that is obviously a 1 in, what is it, 1 in 8 chance, 1 in 7 chance, something like that. Anyway, your odds aren't great. Anyway, as Grevitt starts to defend from Richardson, Tom Stevens is finally given a lead that he might be able to hold.
Yeah, he certainly will want to do that. Of course, yeah, got the gap now, so hopefully he can sort of take a bit more of control of this race. But Richardson is definitely trying to make that move on Grevitt, and so Grevitt has now got all the pressure firmly planted on him in second position. But yeah, look at this train now filing its way back to Cedo Weyer in 8th. So from 2nd to 8th position, absolutely nothing separating these drivers. So all it takes is another repeat of what we saw for the lead between Stevens and Richards, and you could see somebody else easily just dropping it down the order, because once you get offline, out of momentum, you really are just sort of bleeding, time hand over fist, and you really do start to struggle.
I'm very interested to see what happens in the reverse grid here, because again, there's going to be lots of drivers who are trying to come through the field, lots of fast drivers trying to come through the field, and lots of those who are going to be holding on for places. So how easy are they going to find it in the last race of the day? But that's all still to come a little bit later. What can Richardson do here? Still where he started this race, in 3rd. And Grevitt, having gained 3 places in one go, effectively, through the final chicane there, when Richards, Stevens and Richardson were all fighting as we were watching. Grevitt gained all those positions, but now can he hold on to them? And just feel like this group is just spreading apart a little bit now. When you've got a driver at the front who is going as fast as Tom Stevens is, it's quite hard to keep the group together in the way that it was before. But Grevitt definitely seems like he is under pressure, despite his lighter car compared to Richardson.
Seems that way at the moment, doesn't it? I mean, we've got still 10 minutes left in this race. He's going to go defensive here into Campbell, so clearly feeling like he needs to alter his line to make sure that nobody can sort of sniff a chance down the inside. He's defended that one rather nicely there as well. Textbook defending, if you ask me, as that looked like it was Fraser Hart going onto the grass in the background, so he could now become a little bit under threat from Kappa. Richards behind, so keep an eye on that. But there is still this three-way battle going on as well, and even another battle going on. This is Luke Mitchell, Alan Smith and Jordan Hyde as they now make their way through Goodwood, and Mitchell trying to take it the long way around side Smith. Has he got the momentum to do so? Not too sure. Smith takes a shorter dart to the next corner, hangs on to it.
Yeah, it's an unusual run through Village, isn't it, that gentle right-hander there. It is shorter to sort of go to the right-hand side of the road there, but it does put you off your line a little bit before you get to Church Corner. And that's why you see the disparities there. 9.5 minutes to go. 18 lap races, sorry, for these ones tonight, as we've already seen one of those. We'll be seeing this one and one more. This could be quite a dark race, by the way. Very interested to see how dark it's going to be. Apparently at Donington, when it was darkish, there were some people getting into trouble for not having their headlights on, getting into trouble with R-Factor for not turning on their headlights. So they've been told this time explicitly to keep them on, and it looks like Jordan Richardson taken that very literally and thought, well, I'll have them on all day then in that case, because it doesn't really mean anything for this race at all. Here comes Luke Mitchell again, not quite close enough here on Alan Smith, and these are guys just fighting for 12, but there's a slim chance they could gain something out of this, but it's worth being in 11th or 12th if you can get there.
certainly is. I mean, there's still points up for grabs. You still want to get as high as you can. Of course, it increases your chances of being in that reverse grid, as you mentioned, Ewan. But of course, you're still picking up more points as well at the end of the day. So they'll still fight on right until the checkered flag, of course. But yeah, Luke Mitchell, he's having a tough second race here. He's down 5 positions from where he finished in race number 1, as that looks like it was a very nice move there from, very nice defending move, I should say, from Jordan Hyde. Alan Smith unable to pass, but here's the chance though for Luke Mitchell.
That's the problem when you're in a group like this sometimes and you get knocked back, then there's a driver waiting. Luke Mitchell, 12th place, takes that one nicely. And Alan Smith might well try and respond. No, not quite. I thought he was going to try and break late and send it there, but didn't. And so they will be as they are, and that's a nice pass for Mitchell in that case. This is Fraser Hart, who's just on the back of Callum Wilson here, and Tom Stevens not at the water yet by any means. 7.5 minutes to go, and just in the last couple of laps I've noticed Grevitt pulling him back into the fray again, and this is unlike what happened in race 1 where Stevens got faster as the race went on. Maybe just starting to pull up at the end of this race, and that's an invitation to Grevitt and the rest to try and get past him.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's not like race 1 in that Stevens is getting faster, he's getting slower, but it is like race 1 in that the leader is slowing and the guy in second seems to be picking up a bit of speed as the race wears on. I wonder if there is a little bit of element of the fact that if you are in second place, maybe you're not using your battery quite so much, because if you know you're not having to make the moves or try and defend it more importantly, maybe you're just not using the battery quite as much. And of course, the gap being only half a second, it really isn't a mile apart. So maybe that's just playing into the hands of the guys behind. They're not having to do the hard work in keeping the speed up. They can just sort of follow the leader, and then as you get into the closing stages, closing minutes, bang, you can finally attack.
Yeah, maybe there is something behind that. Again, we'll have to try and speak to a driver at some point tonight about that, but we're not having any luck so far here tonight with that. But let's see how we get on later. Cito Vaya getting close again to Matt Richards, still not going to be able to get to his podium. Cito Vaya. To be honest, I'm surprised that the top 8 have all had podiums so far, if I'm honest with you. But there you go. That's the closeness of this series. Here comes Vaya to the outside of the series leader. Matt Richards defending again, suffering with this weight, and at the moment in danger. A small danger it is that he's not going to be involved in the reverse grid as well. And Cito Vaya would double those chances if he were to get past him here for 7th. Not least the points that you've been mentioning there as well for the top 15. That's another reason, that's an added reason for Matt Richards to defend this for all he's worth.
Absolutely. Well, I tell you what, I am now in charge of the wheel, shall we say? Should we figure out how many drivers are going to be on this reverse grid, Ewan?
If you want to, I mean, I hope none of them are listening, so that they sort of know and they can change their tactics halfway through the race. But there's only 5 minutes left, I suppose.
Yeah, well, and they're probably focused on the driving rather than the Discord chat, put it that way. But I have put it in, and the numbers have been generated, and I can tell you now, 11 is the number. So that top 11 is going to be reversed then for race number 2, currently occupied by Jordan Hyde. So he'll have that reverse grid pole. So Luke Mitchell, in that battle that he's been going on with all race long, I think that finally becomes just a little bit more important for him.
Yeah, and that pass there for Cito Vaya comes less important than it might have otherwise been for Matt Richards, but even so, it's another point lost for the series leader. Yeah, you're right though, that battle for 11th is absolutely massive now for Hyde and Mitchell, and previously for Alan Smith, who's no longer there. He's a second and a half behind and looks like he might well just miss out, but from memory now, I can't tell you exactly how many we've had reversed each time, but I think we've had quite a lot reversed each time from memory. And yeah, it's always fun, the reverse grid race, sort of a great crescendo to end the day with, and that's what's coming up in 4 minutes' time. It's the ballast race done, and obviously it's not good news for those who are in the top 5. They will have weight on board, and some of them anyway. Certainly the podium place drivers from this race will be quite a long way back in race 3.
I think it was 9 when we got to Croft last time, and of course you and I were not there for Donington, so memory hasn't quite gone that far back, of course. But yeah, 9 last time, 11 this time, so yeah, it's clearly on the higher end of the scale. But I mean, that just adds to the excitement, if you ask me, Ewan. You know, more drivers being flipped around towards the front end of things, and of course, being that they are roughly sort of that midfield, shall we say, or sort of the upper echelons of it, of course that does mix things up when trying to get moves done, because the guys behind, effectively the championship leaders, they're going to want to get back to the front, and of course it's a lot harder to do when you've got 8 other cars in your way.
Yeah, it definitely is. So it could be a bit of a miserable end to the race for those, but let's see how they get on. Fraser Hart's going to have ballast for the first time since race 1. Is currently unweighted for this race, hanging on to the coattails of these 4 out front. But I'm not sure Hurt has quite got the speed of maybe previous evenings, I've got to say. An unweighted Fraser Hart of previous, I think, would have maybe gone a little bit better than we're seeing currently tonight in this one. But is currently trailing a second off 4th place as things stand. And yes, gaining a few of those points back from Matt Richards, but you've got to remember, Richards won the first race, so there will be points to be made up. It's rapidly, I think, becoming a bit of a 2-horse race this championship season, although Callum Wilson's starting to lurk there or thereabouts in his 4th at the moment, trying to take maybe a position away from his teammate with 2 laps to go in this race. But Richards getting the edge over Fraser Hart, I think, so far tonight.
That's so far, but if history dictates, you know, what tends to happen, if you look back at the previous rounds, Hart has won the final race of both Donington and Croft. So if you're going to put odds on it, the odds are in his favour to actually take the win for the final race here. But yeah, you're quite right. The pace of Hart tonight, he does seem to be struggling just a touch over those around him potentially. And of course, the circuit doesn't really lend itself to promote getting alongside and making those moves easy, which you could look at it on the one hand that's a good thing. Overtakes come at a premium. At the other side of things, we want to see overtakes. That's what we do when we go racing. We want to see people make these audacious moves potentially and sort of really put on a spectacle. And yeah, it really is fantastic to watch as this gap up front, 5/10 or half a second, 1 lap to go, still on potentially for Chris.
Yeah, I think it is, but he's not shown any signs and any evidence so far in the minutes he's been in second place. I don't think he's shown any evidence that he's been able to challenge Tom Stevens, to be honest. Oh, although that's wide. That's definitely wide from Stevens. As they come onto the final lap, that's not the best way to start the last lap of the day. Or not the day, sorry, of race 2. Callum Wilson also getting side by side with Richardson. And was he let through there by his teammate? Now, that I think is Jordan Richardson recognising there is one driver of the pair of us who is 10 points ahead of the other, and we should have that driver ahead of the lesser driver. And fair play if that was team orders there, but and if that Jordan took that upon himself, because that is, well, not something you regularly see.
You're right. It's not something you often see in the sim racing world, particularly because, of course, teams are, you know, at the end of the day, they're somewhat fictitious. Of course, they are real teams in that people join them and take that. But let's have a look at the replay, Ewan, and see whether that was sort of looking like he just let him have it, or he certainly looked like he backed out of the corner just to sort of say, yeah, go on through. And now he becomes a rear gunner to Wilson and keeps Hart at bay. Maybe they thought he had more pace, but final lap's a bit of an odd time to do it.
Yeah, I think that is just letting him through. As Grevitt gets close, he would have been hoping for a few more laps as well here, because Tom Stevens is going to win race 2 from Thruxton, but only by half a second or so. Grevitt will take second, and oh, Richardson's in the pit lane. That explains a lot. Richardson's in the pit lane, and I wonder whether that is a drive-through that has had to be served here, but I'm not sure that's going to count, is it? If he's serving it on the last lap, how does that count? I'm not sure. He will end up a long way back. I think we can count Richardson out of this race and perhaps the next one as well, because it looks to me like that's a drive-through penalty that he was trying to serve on the last lap of the day, but you can't do it because you don't drive through the whole pit lane on the last lap of the day. And so that might well be a lot of trouble for Richardson, and suddenly it explains a lot as to why Callum Wilson was allowed into third.
he was trying to find his inner Schumacher very clearly. uh, but yeah, we're not actually 100% sure, are we, whether that counts as the drive-through? But either way, he's down in 18th position, so it's not going to affect the other drivers all that much, whether they think that's fair or not, because he's still right down at the back. So shame there from Richardson. He was running a fantastic race, and it's just, well, he's come a cropper right at the end, hasn't he?
He certainly has, which is a bit of a shame. Tom Stevens, though, is the winner from race 2 tonight, with Chris Grevitt in second. Callum Wilson will join them on the podium, not joining his teammate, with Fraser Hart 4th place. That's Andrew Capper running out the top 5, Sidovaya, and then Matt Richards, the championship leader, in 7th position. So Hart gaining a few points on him there. Carl Benton, Scott Mitchell-Marm and Jordan Hyde round out the top 10. Alan Smith, in the end, gets to 11th and gets to reverse grid pole ahead of Luke Mitchell, Dave Brewster, Simon Tribeck and Alan Laxon running out the top 15. Alexander Sarema is 16th in front of Jordan Richardson, with Darren Wright, Jaroslav Fides and Stuart Rolfe running out the top 20. Jordan Osborne, Olivia Krajzanovska and Fabian Michelon, the last drivers to finish the race. Matthew Williams, Archie Dardin and Carlo Messina didn't finish the race here second time round. So that is race 2. And as you've said, the wheel has been spun already, and we know already how many drivers are going to be reversed. It's going to be the top 11 this time around, and that is on the higher end. Between 6 and 12 it is supposed to be, and it's been on the higher end all 3 times so far, I believe. Again, can't remember the exact numbers, but it has been on the higher end. Again, it's going to be very interesting now, because the top guys are going to have to do a lot of overtaking on a day where it's been pretty difficult to overtake so far.
It certainly could mean something in this championship. Of course, we are early doors. We don't know what's going to happen, but it's certainly going to play a factor. I mean, we've seen Tom Stevens have 2 fantastic races back-to-back, second and then a win. And of course, now bidding with the win at the second race, he's going to be starting in 11th. He's right at the back. So if he's wanting to replicate and keep that sort of average finishing position real high, he's got to get those moves done. Like you just said, Ewan, it is tricky to overtake here. And so it's going to play a big factor in the championship. The one thing I'll give to Matt Richards in that second race there, yeah, he's had a bit of a stinker, shall we say, with the losing the positions, dropping down the order, and then seemingly struggling in that middle battle. But now he's going to be towards the front, so it kind of swings back in his favour in a way.
Yeah, maybe. Let's see how this final race gets on. I think, yeah, there's certainly going to be a bit of renewed hope for Matt Richards here in the final race of the day. But let's see how they get on in a moment, as the warm-up session will continue. We'll be about 5 minutes away from the start of race 3. I do wonder whether there's a chance for an unusual name maybe to win tonight. Admittedly, the race 3 so far have been won by Fraser Hart, which is not particularly unusual. I think the format has slightly benefited him so far in that sense, and that's maybe why he's been losing points in race 1 and 2 and then winning them all back again in race 3. But he's not going to have the chance to do that tonight. He'll have Celia Vaya in front, Matt Richards in front. I think Alan Smith will be on the pole based on what we just saw there in the results. And so he's going to be quite difficult to get up and past as well. So this is, going to be not him this time round, and maybe a more unusual name. I personally hope that we see a new winner maybe in this final race of the day.
I mean, I'd certainly hope for that. I can't see why that would be a bad thing. It's with this sort of racing, sort of the British touring car, you expect different winners throughout the season. It's not like Formula One, where you tend to have one team that is far superior than the others, and their 2 drivers basically win the whole thing. Touring car is very much more of a not fixed, but it's more of a level playing field in the cars themselves. So you do see a lot of different drivers winning things. I mean, Alan Smith on pole, you mentioned there. Had a little chat, or should I say asked a few questions to the drivers earlier, if I could get an insight on what some of them thought. Alan was lovely enough to respond to that as well, and he did say that this is one of his favourite tracks. Of course, it is very tricky getting that final chicane right, but he was very happy, as this is where he got his first sort of top 10 in a British touring car league back in 2022. I'd imagine sort of earlier on in his sim racing career. So It's certainly going to be a highlight, shall we say, if he's starting right at the front, and especially if he can hang on to it.
Yep, certainly. And again, I wonder how easy that is going to be. How easy is it going to be to hang on in this race? Because yes, it's been difficult to overtake so far. I mean, race one, there really wasn't very many chances at all. I thought Tom Stevens had the best chance of the day and just didn't really take it at all. I wonder whether this time round it's going to be a little bit different, a little bit more aggressive for race 3 because there's a bit less to lose because you know that your starting position doesn't for the next round races is going to be by the next qualifying session and at a new round, so that doesn't matter at all. Yeah, I really wonder whether this is going to be, perhaps the most exciting of the races so far, in as far as we've all got less to lose now. There are differences as far as driver skill is concerned as well, because it's a reverse grid race and we've got some slower drivers ahead of some faster ones. And so we might be able to learn maybe something in hindsight about the races 1 and 2. Were they just too evenly matched out front maybe to be making overtakes around a circuit like this, which so far hasn't produced maybe as many passes as we might have liked?
I mean, when you think of it like that, I think you're spot on. I think it's going to be still tricky to get by, but like you say, if race 3 is anything to go off from Croft as well, I mean, what we saw last time, I'm expecting fireworks here. Even though it is tricky to make those moves, maybe a few more lockups, people really trying to get the moves done into sort of club corner, into Campbell of turn number 2 as well, or 3, sorry. So it's going to be fascinating to see how this opening lap unfolds. Of course, in the back of the drivers' minds, they do know the opening lap penalties are a little bit harsher, so they still have to bear that in mind. They still need to race cleanly at the end of the day, but big points are always up for grabs. And of course, you can certainly lose a race in the opening few corners, but you can't win it, but you can certainly put a big push forward to getting that win.
Yeah, absolutely, you can. Next round is certainly not next week. It's in a few weeks, in fact. The 11th of January when we'll next be racing. This fortnightly league will be having one of those fortnights off because that will land on, the 28th of December. At least, I know that day is going to be a Sunday now, I suppose, but you don't normally know what day it is at that time of year, and I guess nobody would race either, so we'll be having the little bit of time off. 2 weeks after that, we'll be back. 11th of January will be Silverstone National. The one after that will be at Knockhill. Very much looking forward to that, by the way. End of January for that, 25th. Alton Park will be the 6th round of the championship, to bring us to 2/3. Ahead of the Donington GP round, we've already had National at the Donington National Circuit. We are going to have the Grand Prix circuit as well. That will be on 22nd of February, by the way. 8th of March is Snetterton for a 3-week break towards the finale. Just to, another 2-week break. Sorry, I can't do maths. Brands Hatch GP, that was where we will end our season in the traditional BTCC way, I suppose, with the final round coming to you from Brands Hatch. That will be round 9. And hopefully we do still have a championship on the line at that stage. But the 22nd of March is a long, long way away. Over 3 months before we decide the champion of the Pro Touring Esports Championship season this time around. So 27 races this season, and we are coming towards race 9 right now here from Thruxton as warm-up draws to a close. We're redoing it by the looks of things. So we'll be another few minutes. In the meantime, we'll take a short break and be back very, very soon with the final race of the day. Welcome back to Thruxton for the final race of the night. We have just come towards the conclusion of warm-up and we'll be on our way in the formation lap very, very soon. Myself, Ian O'Leary and Ashley Denman bringing you commentary here tonight with Rich Weatherall behind the cameras, and this final race of the day in the third round of the Pro Touring Esports Championship this season. In fact, it's the last race of 2025. We'll be back in 26, of course, for the final two-thirds of the season, but it's our Christmas break coming up after this round tonight. It's been tense racing, I suppose, at the front, Ashley, more than sort of relentless side-by-side breathless stuff, but this final race might well provide something different with the top 11 all reversed.
Yeah, it certainly should do. Of course, you've then got the difference in speed from the top drivers being thrown down the order and the guys that are a little bit further down the order being chucked up at the front. You can only imagine that the speed differences are there because they are quicker and slower than each other, of course. So being reversed, being flipped, it's going to be interesting to see if people can hang on who are now at the front, such as Alan Smith and Hyde there as well, going to be on that front row. And whether the likes of someone like Callum Wilson or Tom Stevens really make their way through the field. So it's going to be the last 22 minutes here, Ewan, to decide and see how that all pans out as they're on their formation lap. But it should be interesting.
It certainly should be, as Alan Smith leads them around the at the circuit for the final time on the final formation lap of this race. So those who were reversed, Alan Smith on the pole in front of Jordan Hyde. Scott Mitchell-Marm is on the second row with Carl Benton. A lot of these names in the front two we haven't actually mentioned very much so far. There's the front two rows. Just quickly, then you get some names we have seen a little bit more of. Matt Richards is starting in 5th place, ahead of Cito Vaya, who's still the trophy leader, having not scored a podium yet. Alessandro Capra and Fraser Hart as well on row 4. It's all names we've seen before. And indeed the podium from the last race, Callum Wilson, Chris Grevitt and Tom Stevens. Then those who missed out, Luke Mitchell, who's actually alongside one of his teammates there, Tom Stevens, and the rest of them who will let's scroll through. Dave Brewster, Simon Trebek, Alan Axon, Alexander Saramina, Aaron Wright, Jordan Richardson, etc., etc. Jordan Richardson actually starting a long way down in 18th place. So that penalty really, really damaging him at the end of the second race today. See them all round the corner there in the background, getting ready for 22 minutes of action here from Thruxton. Here we go, one final time at Thruxton for race 3. We are underway, and a decent start for Alan Smith, not so much for Hyde on the other side. Scott Mitchell-Marm immediately in front of him, and here comes Richards. Oh, he's bubbling over the curve there quite a lot. Carl Penton is on the outside of him, and here comes Richards on the inside of James Hyde as well, coming up in towards the third position. Matt Richards already 2 places gained, ahead of a lot of those who were with him in the opening couple of races as well.
Just trying to work out off the starting blocks there. Someone just really did not get away and they just dropped really far down the order. I'm still trying to work it out, as I've been told in my ear it was Alessandro Capra. I had an inkling it was him, but I could not confirm it as they now come their way through Goodwood for the first time. This battle here between, I believe it's Benton and Hyde going on for 4th position. Smith still leading from Mitchell-Marm, and Richards has gained 2 spots there and is already in that podium hunt, and indeed the hunt for the lead itself. Side by side they go through Church. This is going to allow Weyer and Hart to try and get a little bit of momentum, get alongside and maybe make some moves, as here comes Stevens then to make it 4 wide down this back straight and into club corner. My word, and round goes, who's that? It's one of the Rafa cars. They're back round.
Oh, Mitchell's gone for a proper spin and Stevens for a half one. It's all happening back there. Rafa are all over the place. They're in the lead now as well with Scott Mitchell-Marm. They get past Alan Smith in towards turn 1. Here comes Matt Richards looking to follow through. He knows that once the door is ajar, he's going to go for it. Oh, he went down the inside there. Mitchell-Marm as well by accident and hit him. That was sideways for Alan Smith too. The front 4 or so broken away massively from the rest of the field, who are all climbing over one another after the drama on the road towards that last chicane.
No, Richards there flashing the lights. No, Richards, I think that one's on you, going into the side of Mitchell there. But oh, look at it all happening here. Cars going off left, right, into the barrier as well for good measure. My word, we've lost a few more drivers then from this race early on. This is still the battle for the lead though. Mitchell Marm hanging on to it now. Richard second, trying to get into that top spot. Alan Smith still quite comfortably there in third as well. So in that podium spot, he'll be looking to pick up some nice points here this evening. Tom Stevens, look at that. He's up to fifth.
Absolutely. It's been a great night for Tom Stevens, that's for sure. I feel like he might... Oh, no, a fire in the background. A fire. They're coming towards the final chicane. And that is Stuart Rolfe, who's got a fire. Is that his second engine blown today? Or am I misremembering from earlier on?
It is.
It is, yeah. Meantime, Matt Richards going for the lead. He's not waiting around, but Mitchell Marm, defends. And there's a little bit of contact, but fends him off nicely. This is a golden opportunity for Matt Richards. He's got to win this race. And to be honest, he actually has time on his side. He's got to take his time here and make this pass cleanly for the lead of the race.
More cars seemingly struggling to sort of keep it on the black stuff at the moment. A few more sort of trips through the grass, a few more spins seem to be occurring as well. This is a battle still happening. Contact is there. Well held from the pair of them, I will add. Looking at that, I think that's the number 80 car, if my eyesight is good enough. As I think that is Dave Brewster and Jordan Richardson. He's climbed a good few spots, getting back there into 12th spot. And Alan Axon able to benefit from that as well. Through one, Dave Brewster dropped down to 14th.
Yeah, absolutely. As we get out the final corner again with the leaders. Mitchell Marm in front of Richards, then Smith, and then Benton. And then that big gap back to Tom Stevens, who's leading the rest of the field. 6 places gained already. Not even had 4 minutes yet. And he's up into the top 5 again, despite being the heaviest driver in the field as well. Sido Vaya just in behind. Then Fraser Hart as well, who's going to lose big points tonight if he's not careful. And as things stand, it is looking like that is going to be the case. He is going to lose some big points here. On board with Richards on the way in towards Noble. And just putting that pressure on. Again, he's got time on his side and he's trying to make this work.
Yeah, he doesn't need to force it at this point. He can bide his time. I think he knows he's the quicker driver. You can see there the momentum he's just able to gain and hang on to as they make their way on the exit of Goodwood through Village and now into Church. Mitchell Marm able to just about hang on with the shorter line to the next corner, but now I think it's definitely going to swing into Richards' hands as he's going to have the overspeed as they come now through Woodham Hill and then into the final corner of Club. Late on the brakes is Richards round the outside, sweeping move there. Fantastic there for Matt Richards. What a move to take the lead.
Absolutely. Matt Richards up 4 places in just 5 minutes and leads this race again. Looking to win 2 races in one night for the first time this season, in fact. If he can believe it, he'll be championship leader and they will extend that lead indeed as well if things stay as they are. Meanwhile, side by side for Jordan Richardson, who's trying to get past Alessandro Kappa here for a top 10. That's another Power Max racing driver who's doing very well at coming through the field here. For the leading team as things stand, Richards, Wilson and Richardson leading Cripps, who's not in the series anymore, Fraser Hart and Celia Vaya as well, Brabham Motorsport. They're going to extend that lead by the looks of things too, if it stays going as it is.
It's still only the top 2 drivers that will score the points. So Wilson being beaten currently by Hart and Vaya. So at the moment, they're still going to pick up more points with Richards being in the lead, but it's the best 2 of the team. So they have got 3, they've got more chances, but equally don't count out the rival team because they've still got 2 fantastically quick drivers as look at them trying to make a move here now. This is Wire on Tom Stevens into Club Corner. Stevens just about able to hang on to it through the inside line and now on the exit hard on the power as they now make their way through turn number 1 of Allard. Stevens still in 5th, but the pressure being mounted by Cedo behind.
Certainly is. And I think the reason for this a little bit is that Stevens was really sort of aggressive. Oh no, speaking of aggression, big accident here. As there's a crashing towards the chicane. Looked like Grevitt they hit there, but that isn't Grevitt, I don't think. Maybe it is. Kappa was certainly involved, and so was Jordan Richardson. We'll have another look in a moment, but that was a crash on the way to the chicane. It was Kappa and Richardson, I think, getting caught up with one another, and it looked like Grevitt that they hit, although Grevitt's still carrying on as if nothing's happened here in 9th place. So I wonder whether that Toyota was actually damaged at all or not, or whether that indeed was somebody else. But that was a big crash there, and it's a mystery. It doesn't happen more actually at that corner there. It double backs on itself into that chicane, and it doesn't cause quite as many problems as maybe it should do. Here's what happened. Richardson on the back of Kappa, who wildly goes off to defend, and the two of them get together somehow. They've now got no control, and they slam straight into Grevitt, who I'm amazed is just carrying on.
I mean, looking at that, it's hard with the camera angle. You can't see and get the full picture. To me, it's just they've come together. It's I don't think you can really pin the blame on either one of them. It looked very much like a racing incident. Of course, it's had big consequences on their results of where they're now going to finish. I mean, I'm sure maybe a different camera angle can provide a bit of light of who might have been in the wrong, should someone have been in the wrong. But from what I've just seen, very hard to pin it on either one of them, and so it could just be a racing incident afterwards. But the stewards, no doubt they'll have a look at it. We've got a fantastic stewarding team here as well for the PTEC Championship, so they'll be hot on that one to see what is going to go on with it. Oh, here's a brilliant shot here over the top. Oh, I tell you what though,
It just looks like he's come into it, doesn't it?
Yeah, but it's just the nature of the circuit. It turns left there, and of course Richardson, he's trying to get in between them, and they've just come together. There's nothing in that.
Yeah, perhaps that is the case. It certainly looks, you can look at it one angle that Kappa's coming across, but if you look at the white line compared to where Richardson is, he does leave the white line as well just before there's contact. So yeah, they've I would imagine might well chalk that one down as a racing incident. This meantime, side by side further back in the pack between Jordan Hyde and Fabien Michelon. Not entirely sure how Hyde has found himself so far down. If he gets started on the front row here for this race, but he's nowhere near that anymore, and sort of back to where he was fighting around in the first two races.
Yeah, it's a shame. Of course, that reverse grid is a real opportunity for some of those guys a bit further down the order. Of course, they still have to hang on to it. In the likes of Mitchell Marm and Smith, they're doing a fantastic job up front. Even Carl Benton there, still right up there, 2, 3 and 4, all of those guys. So really impressive stuff, and that means a big pool of points for them as well. Be one of their highlight races, I'm sure. But yeah, you have to take the bull by the horns when the opportunity is there. And for Jordan Hyde, it's just come a bit unstuck for him. So real shame, as 14th position for him.
It certainly is. As for now, anyway. As they come out the final corner again. These guys at the front of the field, frontish. Tito Vaya just in behind Tom Stevens for 5th position. Callum Wilson just waiting in the wings behind as well. Dive down the inside, meantime for 3rd as Alan Smith tries to come through on Carl Benton and does so. Back into 3rd position. Alan Smith, the driver who started on pole here. Benton down to 4th, as it were here. And meantime, side by side again, further back between Michelon and Hyde. Fabien Michelon getting through now into 14th position. So there are a few more positions changing, I feel, maybe in race 3.
It certainly has gone that way, hasn't it, with the absolute chaotic start that we've seen here. Of course, halfway mark about to come up and go. I thought I saw a little bit of a dirt kick up there. May have done, may have not. And yeah, with cars going off left, right and centre and spinning around and all sorts of things happening, it really has shaken up this grid quite fantastically in a sense as well, because you really have got a few different faces at the sharp end of things and some of the favourites sort of a little bit further down that you would normally see at that sharp end. So it's nice to sometimes get that, and of course these are the races that really do mean things when you get to the sharp end of a championship as well, because you look back at it and go, I could have done that totally different, and it could have been maybe championship going my way, and who knows, it's a long way to go.
It certainly is, as we just have over 10 minutes remaining of this race. Starting to get a group here that's sort of more evenly matched again, like what we had earlier on. This is a bit further back between Brewster and Alan Axton, I think. And then you've got Archie Jardine just in behind here as well. So this is just a couple of positions further back from that group further up front. There's Grevitt, who's somehow just continuing on as if he wasn't T-boned earlier. by Kappa and Richardson, a combination of. And these are the leaders again. So Alan Smith getting drawn into this, with Tom Stevens leading the line. Cedar Vaya next, and then Callum Wilson. Vaya hasn't actually gained any places from when he started here, which he really should be doing. If you're in the bottom half of a reverse grid, you should be gaining at least a place when you're in Cedar Vaya's position. But maybe Alan Smith's car is going to provide that for him, as this group have caught it. This is the sort of difference in speed that you need, really, to shake things up in a group like this.
It certainly is. I say that. I think Smith's done a fantastic job still up until this point. Of course, he lost out to Richards, Mitchell Marm and Benton, and he's now sat fourth from that pole. We know that. But he is still holding his own in pace. I think he's doing a fantastic job here. He's got 9 minutes left on the clock. He has got some big guys up behind him though now. Tom Stevens, Wyatt, Wilson and Fraser Hart. I'd say Hart is another one there as well, Ewan, who really should have been doing more things in this second race. The opportunities are there to be had. We've seen that, of course, with this chaos that we've had. And so I'm very surprised that he's also been a non-mover, still in 8th position, as his teammate there in Wire getting it nicely sideways out of Goodwood, as this is some more side-by-side action a bit further down the order, with Darren Wright in 19th, trying to make the move.
Yep, it's a long way back here. These are outside of the points, these guys. Wright trying to come past Krasnowska, and successfully does so into 18th position. And this is further up front again, into the final chicanes. In fact, not far in front of Alan Smith here is Carl Benton, so I reckon there's a podium place on the cards for one of these guys. Stevens, Vire or Wilson, maybe Fraser Hart, although he's got 5 places to make up before he can be on the podium, and there's only 8 minutes remaining in this race, so that could be a little bit difficult for him, but nevertheless, here comes Cedar Vire, close to Stevens, not late enough on the brakes, not aggressive enough, and it's only allowing Callum Wilson to close up here into the back of him with less than 8 minutes to go. Who is going to be the one to break this group apart and kick off the side-by-side racing, which surely is bubbling up here?
Oh, if I was a betting man, it's going to be the man at the front in Tom Stevens. But I mean, it could be any one of them, in all honesty. It is a very tight, packed group. And of course, they all have the skill, the talent, the capabilities to certainly set off the firework display if they so choose to. I think Smith, though, I praised him once already. I'm going to praise him again here. It's been a lap now. He's sort of calmed down a bit, I would say. That gap is very much sort of maintained between himself and Stevens, and even to the next car in Kyle Benton. The gap has remained very much stable between him and Smith. So fair play to him. 4th position is going to be very handy indeed, should he be able to hang on to it for the final 7 minutes.
Yeah, absolutely. Still no breaking apart of this group just yet. Stevens can't seem to get quite as close to Alan Smith as he really needs to at the moment. He'll try and do this as quickly as possible, because if he can, then Carl Benson's not that far further up the road, and Tom Stevens will really start to work his way through the championship standings if this continues. He comes into the day 8th after a 2nd place in race 1, the 1st place last week, no points in the last race, which means that he's losing points perhaps more than the others because of his absence from round 1. Cedar Vire trying to make that equation a lot more difficult for him now. Don't forget, Stevens got 50 kilograms on board. Vire and Wilson, who has a little bit on board, but Vire doesn't have any, and he's looking down the inside into Church. That's brave. He's not quite going to manage it there, and here comes Wilson.
Oh, flash of the lights as well there. Wire not happy with Stevens, clearly, and he's now going to actually lose the spot to Wilson behind as the momentum swings back in the favour of Callum. Late on the brakes, and yeah, he'll happily pick up that tighter line and the position for good measure. So Cedar Wire thought he was potentially on for 5th. He's now actually dropped back to 7th spot. In all of this, it's allowed Smith to just open up a bit of a buffer between him and Tom Stevens. So clearly Tom Stevens in this 3rd round, or 3rd race I should say, seems to be struggling a little bit with that extra weight potentially. He got the moves done early on, but he hasn't moved he hasn't really moved much further after that.
Yeah, it's because it's all mixed up, I think, at the beginning. And in the end, when it gets single file like this, it's proper skill that you need. And a lot of it over the driver in front of you. Otherwise, you're going to struggle to find your way past. But that's the scenario we currently find ourselves in here. This is the highest placed group as far as a a battle is concerned. Sidovaya taking that shorter line there towards the right-hander of Church. And Wilson has got a better line through there, able to stay in front. But, I mean, for Vaio, he shouldn't be getting beaten like this by Callum Wilson, to be honest. He's 30 kilograms lighter because Wilson was on the podium in the previous round, previous race. And Sidovaya is not getting any weight on board, but just doesn't seem to quite have the speed at the moment.
I don't know what's going on with Cedar there as well. I would expect him to be a big contender really in this series. Of course, I mentioned last time at Croft, he's the T6 Motorsport Porsche Cup champion, so he's definitely got pace. That is no question. I've seen him unleash it time and time again in that series. Maybe it's the car. I don't know. He just doesn't seem to have that little bit of extra edge, as that was a little bit of contact there further back down the order. That's Matthew Williams almost being sent round there by Darren Wright into club. Luckily, all facing in the right direction still, so they'll keep on fighting. But yeah, back to Weyer. I don't know what it is. He's just not clicking with this touring car as yet.
Yeah, a bit surprising. But he's got some weeks to figure this one out as we approach 3 laps to go, by the way, in this race. Do we? That looks like it, yep. So, end of lap 14 or 15, I can't quite tell. Into the varnish again. Matt Richards still leading the way. Maybe not with the gap that you'd expect, actually. You'd have expected he was a little bit further out front as things stand, but that's not what we're seeing for the moment. We're seeing just 1.7, 1.8 seconds to Scott Mitchell-Marm. Himself not that far in front of Carl Benton. Alan Smith starting to create a real gap in front of him, but somewhat surprisingly, Tom Stevens not even able to get anywhere near him. And maybe we're underselling tonight the importance of qualifying a little bit, because Tom Stevens is seemingly a lot quicker, but he qualified quite a little bit better than Alan Smith. But you know, when they've got together on the racetrack, this weight is making a huge difference as far as the fine margins, it seems, that are between these two are concerned.
It's an odd one, isn't it? But I mean, I guess that's the difference. Of course, qualifying, you're racing yourself, you're looking to just perfect your lap, and you haven't got to think or worry about anybody else on that circuit with you. You are just yourself alone in the cockpit of the car, and away you go. But of course, you get people side by side, front and behind, as this is going to be a move for I believe it's Fraser Hart. Peter Weyer being taken by Callum Wilson. What a move there. And, well, I'm just trying to, they're not happy, are they, clearly, in that team, as I think Fraser Hart now going to go through on Weyer, or is he? What are they doing? Nope, they haven't swapped around. I thought they were going to swap it there for a second, Ewan.
Yeah, you'd think Fraser Hart should probably be in front of Weyer if they're thinking about this championship-wise. And they've got a couple of laps left to do that just yet. There's Alan Accent here. Goes away with Tribeck in 11th. And then Dave Brewster, who is 12th, just in behind them as well. Plenty of battles up and down the field at the moment. Scott Mitchell-Marm starting to lose speed late on here. Carl Benton going quickly towards the end of the race, and less than a second between those two at the moment as well. It is all happening at the moment with battles up and down the field, groups up and down the field. Here's Alan Smith. Is he going to struggle to hold on here as they approach the final lap of this race?
It's a tale as old as time, isn't it? I mean, when you get into racing, can he hang on for one final pressure lap? But I mean, of course, the cooker is on. It's whether he can manage to keep it under a nice boil, or whether it'll froth over, who knows. Final lap though for these guys. Alan Smith, this really is a fantastic drive from him. Of course, the pressure is still there. This is a brilliant chance for Tom Stevens just to pick up another spot if he can, or whether Smith can just hang on. It's going to be all down to this corner here, which Smith very much has under control by the seams of things. And then, of course, the final corner itself in club. We have seen some other moves around the back part of the circuit, but it is very difficult to get the car alongside another, and so I highly doubt it's going to happen there. But Smith still doing something stellar here this evening.
I'm not sure Stevens quite timed this right as far as catching Smith is concerned. Maybe he's been going at 100% all day and just can't quite find the last second or so that was required, but the seconds are ticking away for Matt Richards, and he'll be pleased about that. He'll be pleased to do this race, get out of here, because the championship leader has won 2 tonight, and while the race in the middle wasn't so good for him, he's still picked up more points than anybody else and extends his championship lead. Matt Richards goes into the Christmas break as championship leader in the Pro Touring Esports Championship after a double win at Thruxton. It's side by side behind by one of his teammates as Stevens is going to be overtaken by Wilson, is he? Well, it's close. Oh, it's very close. But I think Stevens just about gets there at the line. Stilo Vaya was right there as well in the battle for 5th position. They gave it everything to catch Alan Smith, and in the end, they were fighting amongst themselves.
Oh my God, that gap is absolutely insane. I'm looking at it on the race view, 0.015 between Stevens and Wilson there at the line. Absolutely nothing, really is a blink of an eye. Fantastic end to that race as the rest of the drivers now coming over the finish line to take that checkered flag, I believe. Now getting towards Osborne, Jardine, Richardson as well there, 18th, 19th, 20th as well, all into the pits, and yeah, that's going to wrap up race number 3. I mean, what an evening you're in. I mean, race 3 there, really chaotic, but really exciting at the same time.
Yeah, everything you'd expect from a race 3, really, here in the final race of the day. Other than maybe a surprise winner at the finish. It's Matt Richards who wins ahead of Scott Mitchell-Marmon. Carl Benton, who are the surprise podiums here, I suppose, 2nd and 3rd. Alan Smith holds on from Tom Stevens, who only just holds on from Callum Wilson. Stilo Vaya was in there as well, along with his teammate Fraser Hart, Chris Grevitt and Alan Axon, rounding out the top 10. Dave Brewster finishing 11th ahead of Simon Tribeck, Jordan Hyde, Fabian Michelon and Jordan Osborne, the last drivers to get points here tonight. In the final race anyway. Archie Jardine in with them as well. Jordan Richardson with that issue dropping him down. Matthew Williams I don't think score any points here tonight with the 18th place here in this one. Darren Wright and Olivia Krasanovska rounding off with the best result of the day. Yaroslav Fides and Colin Messina, the last drivers to finish. Alessandro Cappa retired after his crash. Stuart Rolfe had a fire, as we saw. Alexander Sorima and Luke Mitchell retired early on as well in that race. Well, as I say, race 3 did provide everything we'd hoped for, maybe other than a surprise victor, because after all said and done tonight, Matt Richards will go away from the day championship leader at the Christmas break, and for the first time, a double race winner in one evening as well. That was pretty dominant in race 3 from him.
It's certainly what he needed, that's for sure. I mean, like you say, going into the Christmas break, of course, you can think about the first 3 rounds. How have they gone for you? For Matt Richards, he really is going into this very confident indeed. He can be very relaxed over the Christmas period, I can tell you that. And so coming back into the new year, I'm sure they'll all be putting in the work over the period of Christmas anyway. And so he'll hopefully come back even stronger, I'm sure. But, you know, is it going to be a case of, if the others can catch up, has he done enough prep work himself to make sure he still has the edge coming into the sort of second half of the season? But he can be very happy with what he's done so far.
He certainly can. And I say he will go away from tonight with the lead going into the Christmas break. As we know, next round is going to be from the Silverstone National Circuit on the 11th of January. We'll be live same time, same place with that one. 3 more races to come from the Silverstone National Circuit. I have a feeling it's going to be a little bit different to what we saw here tonight, but you never know. Pro Touring Esports Championship, always unpredictable. Big thanks to everyone who's been tuned in over the course of the 3 races tonight. It's been a pleasure to have you along for this broadcast once again. I've been O'Leary alongside Ashley Denman with Rich Rowell behind the cameras. It's a Merry Christmas from us and a Happy New Year. We'll see you in 4 weeks' time for the next round of this championship from the Silverstone National. Goodbye for now.